Hi, I'm Stu Kagan, and welcome to Born Scrappy, the podcast for scrap metal exporters and traders. Join me in conversation with some of the most experienced traders and operators that have helped shape this incredible industry. In today's episode, I chat with Marc Schupan, the CEO of Schupan. Schupan was started in 1968 and has remained a family business all this time and now employs over 600 people. Marc was shortlisted as a national finalist in the EY Entrepreneur of the Year Awards in 2022, and he won the prestigious Harbour Aluminum Gene Greenberg Award in 2023. In today's episode, we talk about always insure or hedge, ethical companies, culture, service, and so much more. So let's jump into it with Marc. But first, intro. Hey, Marc, welcome to Born Scrappy. How are you?
Glad to be here, and I appreciate the opportunity. Thank you.
Thanks, Marc. I just got off an aeroplane about an hour ago, and I've come straight to the studio to get this recorded. I've been excited to chat to you for a while. You've been doing this in the industry for longer than most of us, so I can only imagine, based on some stories I have and that I hear from others, you must have some incredible stories over the times.
Well, after 50 years, you certainly have a lot of different things that happen, either with you, to you, or for you, or whatever. But it's been a good run for sure.
Marc, take us back 50 years ago. So, how did you land up in the metal recycling industry? And take us through that journey a little bit.
Okay, reasonably succinctly, went to school to Michigan State University, picked up a poli-sci degree, which if I would have taken, looking at it over again, I would have taken French cooking, fly tying, and putting for the value of that poli-sci degree. But I also went an extra year and picked up a teaching certification, which was the right thing to do. And it was around Vietnam. A lot of things were going on. So I taught for 3 years, taught history and government and economics, and I did a class on the Enlightenment period. Locke, Voltaire, Rousseau. All these farm kids really needed that. But I coached football, basketball, and baseball, and I was single and traveled in the summer, so it was a great experience. Did I want to be in the metals industry? No. I had worked before. My father had been general manager of a larger company, not really large, but a larger one in Kalamazoo, where I live. And he had a chance to buy it, and he had two partners. And at 48, he was going to go ahead with these other partners and buy out the company where he had been 17 years as operations manager. And at the last minute, they decided not to sell it. So he decided to go out on his own. And again, I'd worked some summers, everything from, we were very small, driving a truck, calling on potential new customers, whatever it took. But we were very small in those days. But I give him a lot of credit. He had two younger sisters, a younger brother. We didn't have a lot of money, but he had the courage to go out on his own at 48 and start something with a 10,000 square foot facility with no heat, a couple trucks, and a very small basis of customers. But he was a shirt and tie guy. He didn't drive a truck or this or that or whatever, but he was a great mentor. But did I want to be in the metals scrap business? No. And what happened was I came home, took a leave of absence from teaching, and said I'll work, because he and I got along good. We were really good friends, and I know he seemed to have a lot of stress. And we, back that time, we only had 6 employees. I said, I'll work for you for 1 year, and then I'm going to go to law school, which originally that's what I thought, or I'm going to try to go out and coach college basketball, which I've been very successful coaching. And I really think that's what I would have done. But I would not have stayed in that little scrap business. And what happened was, literally, I came home 3 weeks after I was home. I got a call from my father. He was at breakfast and said, I'll see you in a half an hour. I'll be in. And that was the last I ever talked to him. He had a massive stroke at 53 and died. And literally a few days later, Sunday, this was in August, so it's been 50 years. Basically the funeral was on Sunday, and Monday morning I was at work. So I always joke I reached my level of incompetency very young. I was 26 at the time, but again, a mother that was 46, 3 younger siblings, and we were not wealthy by any stretch. And so you learn a lot about stress on what the stress he went through after I walked in his shoes. They talk about it, but the first year, 1975, was a recession year too. So I learned a lot, and it was one of those open up in the morning, close at night. We were open a half day on Saturdays for like some retail, and then I did paperwork some days on Sundays. So first few years, I worked a lot for sure, but you do what you have to do. So, and then from that, this was 1974. When you're young, you try things. Some work, some don't. And we've tried a lot of things over the years. And again, some have worked, but in general, the key is, and we can talk about it later, is I was able to attract really excellent people that were better at a lot of things that I probably wasn't. I was not a finance guy or anything. I should have taken accounting as opposed to poli-sci, but you learn a lot over the years. And if somebody said, well, you've been successful, da, 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 da. Well, I've been successful because I've been able to, again, surround myself with very talented people that have been extremely loyal over the years and have stayed with me and helped me to grow. And we've all prospered, reasonably, I believe. So I feel really fortunate that I was able to do that. And the other thing is I'm a competitive person. And when we started, there was about 10 scrap operations in Kalamazoo. And I can promise you nobody stuck out their hand to try to help us survive that first year. But you do what you have to do. And I learned a lot. I continue to learn. I still learn every day. But a lot of changes in our industry in the last 50 years, that's for sure. And the directions of what we do and what we don't do and areas that we handle now. And it is obviously a different world.
What does it look like now for you, Mark? Talk us through the size of the company and what you do on a day-to-day basis.
Well, I definitely raised the overhead over the last 50 years. We have about 650 employees now. We have facilities as far as outside of Michigan, major one in Elkhart, Indiana. We have a plant in Des Moines, Iowa. We have distribution operations for our aluminum which is based in Kalamazoo, in Dayton and Toledo. Because we handle the bottle bill in Michigan, the recycling, we have a major plant in the Metro Detroit area and a pretty good sized one in Grand Rapids, Michigan, and multiple facilities in Kalamazoo. And then we have a aluminum processing operation we opened in the last year in Russellville, Kentucky. Work on that green aluminum. And one in Kalamazoo. Both of them, one's 100,000 square feet and the other's 125, with state-of-the-art equipment and efficiencies. And we know we made investments for the future that we believe are the right ones. I think we have like 22 facilities, buildings, or whatever we work out of. And then our trading group, I mean, they're all over the country, and we do have an office in Mexico City. So it's a lot different than just when we had 10,000 square feet in Kalamazoo, Michigan. So definitely a different world. And we did business, I think, last year in 24 countries. So
wow.
Again, it's a business where you got to work hard. You got narrow margins, but I think for us, we have certain things that have been our modus operandi, how we handle things, our culture, our values, that have basically, I think, been why we've been successful. Not an easy industry, but a lot of great people. And at this point in time, there's a number of companies that always want to do stuff with us and are always looking to try to figure, is there a way they can partner with us? And I think the biggest thing is because we've developed trust over the years that if we say we're going to do something, we don't need 10 pages of legalese, a handshake, and we have never not honored a commitment, even if it hurt us for quite a while, because my parents taught me three things, pretty much. There are three things they wanted to teach me. Integrity, which is whatever you say, you always honor that. You always tell the truth. Tenacity, when you get knocked down, you get up and instead of whine, fight your way through it. And then the last one's compassion, that how you treat other people, whether it be your employees or your community or your customers. And we're not here to outsmart people. We're here to work with them. So, and it seems to have worked. Not always, but most of the time.
And Mark, before we get into some specific stories about your journey, currently you are still in the business day to day, and do you have family members in the business?
Oh, that I do. That I do. In fact, it's Schupan Sons. My dad wanted that. It was a different name, but I know my dad would have liked Schupan. So about 2 years after he passed away, I changed the name to Schupan and Sons. And then eventually my sister worked in the business too at one time. And then now my daughter does too. But as far as family, my son-in-law runs the aluminum distribution manufacturing. He's responsible for 3 plants on a few hundred people, I think 250 or something. And he's great. He's been with me 20 years, I think. And then my youngest son just moved he worked in Los Angeles for us for about 8 years. And he's going to be the new CEO in the next couple of years. And he's excellent. I think he just turned 37 and he's getting married in the spring. So I'm thrilled about that. My biological clock has been ticking. With my daughter, she's the eldest, she's 45. And I have an 18-year-old grandchild and a 16-year-old grandson and a 13-year-old granddaughter. And then let's see, I have another son that's 42, Jacob, who's great, and he works in our electronics division, but doesn't necessarily run a lot of things, but he's really good too. So family's definitely been involved, and will continue. And it is a family business. We could sell it. We get people want to buy it every 5 minutes, but I think I've made a promise to our employees that we didn't build it to sell it. And with our culture, when we're successful, we share it. And I think I'm hoping that this will be around another 20, 30 years, but very hard to manage from the grave. So I'm not sure. But my goal has never been to be the richest guy in the graveyard. So if it was just money, I guess we'd sell it and whatever. But right now we all work. We make pretty decent livings, and we've built it into my first year. I'll tell you, my first year in business, 1974. Our sales were $790,000 for the year. So anyway, a little different now, just a little, but
yeah. You obviously, especially from early on, you would have had such a role in the company where you would have done just about every role there is in the industry. But let's specifically talk to trading. Has there been, one or two experiences that you've had when trading, either buying or selling, that's had such a significant learning curve for you, or something that you will never forget and you instill it in everybody else?
well, you hope so, but you learn from your mistakes, hopefully, and challenges. And we always talk about challenges being opportunities. Can you take this lemon and make lemonade or whatever? But when we first started, I bought, I sold, I loaded, I unloaded, whatever. But when we talk about trading now, we have a trading division that's very substantial part of our company, with a number of employees scattered in, I don't know, Philadelphia, Cleveland, Chicago, Detroit, St. Louis, Nashville, LA, Mexico City, Houston. There's probably a few other that I'm missing, but those guys work out of there. What significant things happen? Well, we're very large in the beverage container side. We are, I think I can say it we're number one in the United States in volume there. Whether it's buying, I think we buy in all 10 deposit states, and and we buy from, I think, 300 guys that are in the scrap business, our trading group. But a number of years ago, we were a number one supplier for a very large company, which I won't mention right now, but they're still very large in the beverage side. And we had done business with them. We were their number one supplier. And we'd heard rumors they're having trouble paying their customers and this and that. But I think since we were the number one customer, we got paid. And I've had somebody there that I felt was certainly going to keep an eye out for us and whatever. Well, one day I got a call. I don't know if it was their president, might have been their CFO. Mark, we can't pay you. Nothing was over 45 days, and it was $17 million, which for our company was a lot of money. And it did get the attention of the bank I was dealing with here too. So anyway, long story short, what I learned was, they did not go bankrupt. I went down and I put a deal together over 2 years, and long story, with somebody that was supporting them, that was going to continue to, and I met with him, and we put a deal together, and we got paid every cent plus interest over 2 years, and we were their number one supplier, and we made a pretty good deal there. But what it did is it taught me, never put yourself in that position again. Either you better have those receivables insured or hedged or whatever. But I never wanted to do that again. That was a major learning experience. And if I was a public company, they probably would have fired me deservingly. But it's funny how it turned out is almost like a Harvard case study in a positive way of how we took something, and we still do a lot of business with this company, which has been sold not too long ago. I think we're still probably your number one supplier in the nation. So, you live and learn. That's on the negative side. So
when you now are looking to sell, you spoke about either insured or hedged or whatever it might be. What are the kind of important factors that are influencing who your company now sells to, or even since then? I guess, how did you change things?
Well, again, if you go back over my 50 years, and you look at how many ingot makers for the secondary ingot business were here that are gone, that went bankrupt, that for different reasons, for what was going on internationally, or what happened with the auto industry, or how they changed things, or whatever. So, and we've had instances where somebody says, "Oh yeah, we're good. We can do this, da 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 da." I think, if anything, I've learned the main thing when you're dealing with companies is really to know, ethically, what kind of companies are there? There's somebody that you can work with. I have a thing in my office here that says, there's nothing nearly as clever as honesty and sincerity, or nearly as clever. And I think it's really true. There's people that you can do millions on a handshake, and there's people that if you had 20 pages of legalese, if their minds or hearts are how to get around doing the right thing. And I use this a lot. Mark Twain always says, you never go wrong doing the right thing. And I think that's, and I've used that a lot, but whether it's our employees, our communities, our consumers, or whatever, they know they can trust us. We're not always right. But if we make a mistake, we don't hide behind something. We basically say, hey, we did something, we screwed up, and here's how we're going to fix it, not hide from it. Where that's not always the same modus of operandi by a lot of companies. But I think that's helped us. And we're a pretty good sized company now. I think in aluminum, I imagine with what we do we have a big industrial base. I think we have about 600 industrial plants we handle, primarily aluminum. And with our trading group and with the beverage side, I think we're probably in the top, I would imagine, top 5 in the country in volume of aluminum scrap that we control or buy or sell or whatever. I don't know exactly, but I think we're somewhere close to that. But again, I have a really good outside board member from the University of Chicago who's been a great mentor, a guy named Jim Schrager, teaches strategy at the University of Chicago. And came in one time many years ago, and we were really small. I think we were 50 million in sales or 7. I don't know, really small. And when he got done, he sat me down. He said, "Mark, do you want to feel good or do you want to get better?" And I've never forgot that. And he's still on my board. So when we have a board meeting, I always tell him I want to feel good today.
Yeah.
But the idea, there's so much to learn. There's some positive, really positive stories too of things we did. Here's another a little more negative one. One year we were waiting. We had a big chunk of beverage containers to cover. Maybe it was 12, 14 million pound that we wanted to cover. We had purchased in the late fall for next year delivery and all that. And we had a profit, not a big profit, but a decent margin in it. But the Chinese were, it was their holidays, so they were off for 2 weeks or something. Well, every time, if you look at over the years, they have come off their holidays. Generally, the LME would go up 2-3 cents or something, or there'd be some positive changes. Well, this time it didn't. We didn't sell the 10 or 12 million at X profit we would have had. And so we just sort of rode it out as the market continued to go down for I mean, we had to sell material, whatever, but yeah, it was the pigs and hogs theory a little bit, that's, sometimes you're better to take a small or medium profit than try to make it into something that maybe you got a little bit more. But again, there's other times when, even with that $17 million problem I had done some hedging, and I hit the top of the market. The market was 3,000 or something, and it turned out I helped get me through it. I had a trading company sending me $1 million every month for a number of years because we were on the right side of that trade. Now, is it I was really smart? No, I was lucky. In fact, the trader that I'd work with the market after I did the deal, 2 days later had started to drop. And he said, "How did you know?" And what are you going to say? Sometimes better to be lucky than smart. So, I mean that there's other stories somebody else would give you where we took a chance on a few things, and I think I pretty much nobody will tell you that I'm not willing to try something new. And if you look at our businesses, it's really diverse now. Scrap certainly is where we started, but we manufacture some pretty sophisticated parts, primarily aluminum. But it's kind of cool because we might be supplying the raw material for the company that's sending us material that we make the parts out of, and then maybe where we sell it, maybe we buy their scrap, and it goes. I mean, it really is talk about circular economy, but we close the circle on a lot of things. And I think that's been good for us. Companies, for example, if I went to an extruder and wanted to buy their scrap or part of it, if we're buying new material from them, why wouldn't they want to do business with us as opposed to just somebody else who just wants to give them a price? So
yeah, absolutely.
That's a positive.
So, Mark, that makes me think about, in order to be one of the biggest suppliers of aluminum in the US, it means you have to be buying a lot.
Yes, we do.
How have you changed, or how have you grown that strategy? What have you done? What's your strategy behind buying? How do you open up multiple yards and new facilities? And what have you taught your guys to?
As far as multiple yards on the scrap side, if you really just look at the scrap, it's, Elkhart and Kalamazoo are the majors. And then one in Des Moines, they handle a fair amount of scrap too, but that's primarily, it's a little different. Yeah, they're doing stuff with, aluminum, paper, glass. It's kind of like a MRF almost, and I'm not used to that, but we were very fortunate. We hired a guy named Andy McKee, who was with Novelis for a long time, key guy. And we sat down, we decided if we were going to have what I would call a trading division, that we had to have somebody really good. And so we hired him. And basically I said, Andy, you go out and you find the best people in the industry. I didn't say how much to pay them. I said, find them and let's put them on the team. And he's done a phenomenal job doing that. people have come to us from other major, they might be consumers, or whether it's Novelis or whatever. We've got people that have been with Coca-Cola, Alcoa, Novell, just they worked with us on the other side, and they liked our culture, and they know how we do things, and they know if we're successful that we share, which we do. And so I think that, when they talk about culture beating strategy, you do need strategy, but I do believe culture is the most important, because and I know that for about 80% of the purchases or acquisitions or mergers, 80% of them really don't ever accomplish what they think they're going to. In general, you can trace it back to the cultures don't mesh. A number of years ago, I was getting close to buying a pretty good sized company, not huge, but maybe 50 million in sales. And nice. I like the guy, da 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 da. But as time went on, and we would have fit in a number of ways. We would have been 60-40 owners, but the cultures just weren't going to match. And as the goalposts kept changing, so to speak, and he said something like, well, I pay people enough so they don't quit their jobs. Well, that's not what we do here. We have a clinic for our employees. We have a gas allowance for hourlies. We've had for, I don't know how long, $90 a month for each person, and that's hourly. There's a saying that's on my wall that my wife's grandmother loved, and she's like a midwife and farmer's daughter and all that, whatever. It says, service is the rent we pay for the space we occupy while we're on this earth. And I think it's really true. It's a true statement. And my mom used to say it's easier to give somebody the shirt off your back if you happen to have another one. But if we're ever successful, because we didn't grow up wealthy, she says, I expect you're going to do something that's going to make a difference in other people's lives. And so that was the kind of mentoring that I had, from my family, and try to continue that. And if I look at the last 50 years, things that we've been able to accomplish for our employees, for our communities, and whatever. And some of those, we started a school for 15 to 22-year-olds that couldn't make it in the public schools 8 years ago. That's been very successful. There's a lot of opportunities out there, but the more successful you are, the more you can do. And I kind of look at it that way too. And this has been a challenging year, I'll tell you, but in general, small margins, but we've grown to the point where a small margin on a lot of volume is still something. So
absolutely. What about data? I mean, data is a buzzword at the moment, and data-driven decision making. And what is your company? What sort of data do you use to help you make better decisions?
Well, I generally don't flip coins anymore. No. It's funny. 2 weeks ago, I was at a class for a week at Stanford on AI, and I'm about the least technical guy in the world. If it was up to me, communications would be smoke signals. But I learned a lot there, because I didn't want to be the village idiot. In fact, the first book you read is AI for Dummies, and then you had a couple other books you had to read. But it was a good class. But when you look at trying to make decisions, that data is so important, or to at least understand. Sometimes I know you go back a number of years and we were less sophisticated, and we were doing a fair amount more Ferris at the time, and we weren't very successful at that time. And the only thing that would have made us less successful is if we'd handled more volume based on the way we did things. I mean, we're going back a long time. But, once we finally got the information we need, we said, hey, unless you're going to be huge, or you're going to put in your own water shredder, or you're going to whatever. A lot of the industrial plants that are handled, it's always very competitive, and there are people that are willing to work for very, very little and hope the markets. I don't know how they were, but so data's. We have a really good IT department here. I don't know how many people. I think maybe 12, 14 people, but when we decide to make a decision, we truly, not that you want to do some things that are from the heart, so to speak. But we do try to get the best information we can, especially today. Ignorance is not bliss. And if you got to know where you're making it or you're not making it when we look at new opportunities. And I think there was a thing about investments and things. Well, a lot of people in our industry sometimes, well, okay, we want to buy this $350,000, piece of equipment, and they can debate back and forth and it. But I look at people; they're the investments that are really going to drive things. So when we invest in people, whether it's hourlies or this or that, I think we're ensuring our future by doing these kind of things. Sometimes you can do more, sometimes you can do less, but I think if your employees realize that, um, I sat in one time on at the IDEA conference in Colorado, in Aspen. I snuck in. Somebody famous. He said nobody ever washes a rental car, and I started to think about that. Nobody ever washes a rental car. Well, if everybody owned their job, if it was theirs, and they knew that by taking care of it, they'd be more successful. The company would be. Then that's the kind of environment we wanted. Not, well, it's just my job. I'm just punching in and, you know, till I can go home and whatever. I'm not that everything we do is fun or anything, but I think people realize that they're important and the things they do are important. They'll wash that car every day. I think that makes a huge difference.
Yeah, and I think the same. I think you probably get a lot of that from your sporting background. I think it's the same in sport that the best dynasties have actually got this ownership and being a part of something bigger than themselves that actually brings these teams together. I've just finished reading a book by James Kerr called Legacy, and he followed around the All Black rugby team for many years, and they were at the time, probably the greatest dynasty in any sport. You just couldn't beat them, and it's all about, so much of it is about being a part of something and having that ownership in it. And it's the exact same when we talk about businesses. And I just look at your journey, and you said earlier about how you coached sport, and that's probably what you would have done. And
I've
there's
been
just so
retired
much
by
alignment.
now. I'd be in the Hall of Shame. No,
Yeah, exactly. I hear you. Tell me, you spoke about equipment purchases and looking at different options. When you've grown your business, what sort of capital structures did you use? And it's good for, for the listeners to get an idea. Do you recommend debt finance, financing it all yourself, selling equity? If people are looking to grow their business, what do you recommend the best way to buy new capital?
well, I think everything is a little different. I think you have to see how you're going to use it. What's the timeline? What can you actually afford? Fortunately, over the years, we put a lot of money back into the company. Never try to, as I say, pull, something way more than I should, so that when we wanted to do something, we had the funds to do it, and we are strong financially. So we have good credit now. Sometimes we might lease with an option to buy. The thing is, over the last, I don't know how many years, I look at this equipment out here. I'm like, wow, those 3 trucks are worth like as much as a company was when I started, or better. But
Yeah.
I take pride. You got your name on it. You want safe equipment for people to drive, whether it's driving or whatever. And if it's good equipment too, then they're gonna take better care of it. Uh, they're gonna have ownership, and uh, everything is a little different. We have a lot of LLCs that are separate from the company on our buildings and facilities and whatever. And we're lucky. Generally, banks are coming to us all the time wanting our business. I know I know what happens. If all of a sudden you're not doing that well. I remember reading a book, A Man in Full. Did you ever hear of that book by Thomas Wolfe?
No.
Well, it's a story of a real estate, but basically about a guy been really successful, and he decided to build a huge complex outside of Atlanta as far as shopping and hotels and da da da. Anyway, long story short, it didn't do well, and it showed you how banks treat you when you're doing well, which is flying you to go skeet shooting or shoot something, to where you have a definition when you're having trouble pay your bills, which is not nearly as positive for sure. But it was interesting uh, from that standpoint, which I never want to be in. Uh,
Yeah.
but
So
I
you'd avoid debt finance as much as
I have a
possible.
fiduciary responsibility, and we borrow money because we pay our bills way faster than we get paid. So we're always going to be uh, probably borrowing money just for what. But the nice thing is we have lots of credit, and again, by paying our bills on time, and in the 50 years I've been here, we've never, no matter what, not paid our bills on time. And I think that's a good reason for people to want to do business with you. That's for sure.
Mark, when you decide there's a plan, there's a project to buy a new piece of equipment or invest in something, do you have some form of process that you go through internally? You mentioned you have a
Yeah, we
board.
do. We do. And our board wouldn't be involved with that. But let's say
Okay.
you're the president of our industrial scrap division, because we have a president there. We have a president for the trading group. We have a president for aluminum distribution. We have a president for everything but tree planting, I think. But anyway, we got lots of them. But Gary Curtis would come to me and he would say, I mean, there's a point where I want to be. I'm not involved in everything. I'm not a micromanager, but if it's over say $150,000 or something like that, they're gonna say, okay, here's why we want to do this. Here's what we're replacing. Here's the efficiency. Here's what we believe will be a savings by having something. You don't want a piece of equipment that's got a 10-year payback. I mean, even in purchasing companies, which we've done in this and that, you look at what really does make sense is return on your capital. And again, we're in a pretty narrow margin business, but I think the whole idea is you have to be open minded. I read at Harvard years ago. What was it?
Um,
Blue
the
Water
blue
Strategy.
blue ocean strategy.
Yeah, Blue Ocean Strategy. The idea of do you
Yeah, I
want to
read it.
swim with everybody else, or do you want to find some place where it's unique, at least for a while? If it's good enough, somebody else will do it anyway. But sometimes maybe you can buy time or whatever. And I'm a big hockey fan. I had two kids that played college hockey. I played from 30 to 45 till I had my first back surgery. Not that I was very good compared to my sons; they were really good. But Wayne Gretzky, which everybody's used a million times, and we did it. We used it before it's fashionable. We don't go. He'd always say, "I don't go where the puck is. I go where it's going to be," and that's what we try to do with our business. To try to okay, what is this? How we got in the beverage business? I mean, in Michigan was a deposit state, and when we first got in, my only competitors were Anheuser-Busch, uh, Alcoa, and Reynolds. They had all the business between all the wholesalers, and we had zero. But we had some equipment which would be better for the wholesalers. We knew our services would be better. We were a lot more agile, I'll put it that way. And once people found out they could trust us, we became one by one very popular. I'll leave it at that. But when we first started in my bank, well, you're going to compete with these guys. I said, I think I can. And it took a while to build that reputation. And we go to all these different events, and I think my wife was with me, and everybody likes her. So, but you can't be afraid to try things. I had really good people that worked with me and for me that we went. I don't know how many years with never having a beer wholesaler down for more than 24 hours with equipment. We had spare equipment which we could move in within and this equipment was $25,000 to $40,000 a piece. This equipment, we probably had 70 of these pieces out in the field.
Wow.
But
Wow.
the material was going to come back to the wholesaler every day, so he needed to have something that worked. So I think that itself, and we built great relationships over there. When we first started, there were like 220 beer wholesalers in Michigan, And now I think there's like 42. Been a lot of consolidations, but we got great relationships. Their kids are doing business with my kids, and so that's a positive.
You actually made mention of Wayne Gretzky's quote where he goes where the puck is, which made me think about also your stories about um, you miss 100% of the shots you don't take. I
Oh,
believe that was also Wayne Gretzky.
that,
And that's kind of, related to what you're talking about,
oh yeah,
that
no,
taking that opportunity, taking the
you
chance.
don't try. And some things you won't. I mean, I haven't been perfect. I know there's some things we've done it, but
Mm.
if your track record is 8.5 out of 10, as long as that 1.5 doesn't
Sink
destroy
you.
the
Yeah,
8.5,
you're in a good place.
you're you're
Yeah.
probably gonna be all right. And as you get older, too, I think some people, I think I've gotten a lot more conservative. Maybe other people will disagree. And now I have to, when we make a decision, my family owns part of the company, and so we sit down. And it's not just because Mark wants to do this. I
Mm.
actually have to convince him now. No,
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
no, it's good. And the nice thing about my kids is, nobody's just got their hand out. They all want to earn what they're doing. They realize, I mean, if we sold tomorrow, nobody ever have to work, but that's not what we're going to do. And what's his name? Berkshire Hathaway. Um,
Yeah.
I read a lot of his stuff, but it was uh, money will buy you happiness if you've earned it. And I look around at people with trust babies and this and that, and that aren't doing anything or whatever. And I don't know. I truly believe that when you earn something, it means something. And
Mm.
our family's doing fine, but we're not out looking to see if we can buy a big yacht or something. It's just not how we operate. I like Mother Teresa's one of my favorite sayings of hers, which is, you get more people you got a few challenges once in a while, but she said, I know God will only give me what I can handle, but I wish He didn't trust me so much. Now I have days that I feel like that too. Next, but
Mm.
in general, I'm very fortunate because I have an incredible support group.
Yeah. Um, Look, we could probably keep going for days talking, and I'd love to hear all your stories, but we're running out of time very fast. So I need to end off with a few questions. One is, who would you like to listen to next on Born Scrappy?
I don't know. Metal Exchange has got some really good people, and of companies that I look at and that I respect and have watched them over the years, what they've been able to do as far as diversify and the different things that they're in. I'd say their CEO. I think he'd be a good one. I mean, it's a family business.
Okay.
I don't know if it's his father or grandfather or whatever, but they've built a good reputation. They're not only in the scrap side and trading and whatever. They're extruders. They have their own melting facilities.
I know them well. Yeah. They're a
They're
great
they're
company.
they're,
Great,
they're
great
great
bunch.
people. You've seen a lot of good guys and not so good guys in our industry come and go and whatever. But they're a company that has done this the right way from an ethical standpoint. And again, they're bright people and have a great deal of respect for them.
Mark, I need to finish off, but I just want to ask you some personal questions quickly. Favorite TV series or movie?
I'll tell you, there's a movie that I don't know if anybody's. I think it was called Kingdom of God, which is a story of defending Jerusalem during the Crusades. An excellent movie.
Mark,
Um,
favorite place to visit?
oh, that's hard. I've been really fortunate. I think for our anniversary, or we've been married 48 years, my daughter gave me and her son one of those things where you put pins in countries. And I think we've been to 48 countries or something. I think favorite trips, not favorite country. I was in Kenya and Tanzania a number of years ago on one of those safaris with 6 other couples. And I thought that was pretty amazing. I've been to almost kind of you name it. We've probably been there. I've been to just about every place you can think of, from the Galapagos to Turkey to
Mm.
whatever. But
The safaris were my favorite place by far. So, have you got a favorite book?
I really like the book Think Again. Think Again. Uh,
I think
it's
I actually
basically
read that.
Yeah, well, a lot of people have, and
Makes you
basically,
question what your
yeah,
thinking is,
you
right?
you
And
have
it's
values that you've learned all your whole life, and are you
yes, and it
willing to
makes you
open
make
your
choices.
mind to other facts that may make it
Mm, mm,
change?
mm. I'm going to ask you for a favorite quote to end the episode.
I think real succinctly, I think it's Mark Twain's. You never go wrong doing the right thing.
Absolutely love that. Mark, this has been fantastic. Thank you so much for joining us on Born Scrappy. Thanks,
Take
Mark. Cheers.